Hello and welcome. This is Deep Dive and I'm Tiffany Meier. $2,000 could be yours or could have been. The House has agreed to increase stimulus checks to $2,000. They amended the relief bill late last night, but it's since been blocked by Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. The bill is known as the Cash Act. It resulted from President Trump's instruction to amend the pandemic relief bill he signed Sunday. It received a 2/3 majority in the House and went on to the Senate. The bill would increase payments for both adults and children. President Trump used the Impoundment Control Act of 1974 to initiate the stimulus increases. He's also looking to remove what he calls wasteful spending from the $900 billion pandemic relief package. Under the act, if the president wants to spend less money than Congress provided for a particular program, he can seek congressional approval to rescind by sending a special message to Congress identifying the amount he proposes to rescind, reasons for it, and the economic effects of the rescission. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi urged the president to immediately call on Republican lawmakers to stop blocking legislation to increase the direct payment checks. But her statement did not address alleged voter fraud and legal protections under Section 230 of the 1996 Communications Decency Act for Internet companies that have engaged in censoring or political conduct. Trump said Congress has promised to review the law, which largely exempts online platforms from liability for content posted by their users. They can be held liable for content that violates anti-sex trafficking or intellectual property laws. Section 230 currently allows companies to block or screen content in good faith. Trump and his administration have repeatedly underscored the risks of unbalanced policing of user content on social media platforms, claiming that many big tech companies are engaging in conduct that limits conservative viewpoints and stifles free speech. The president has urged Congress to roll back the liability protections and vetoed a defense spending bill over lawmakers' failure to do so. Trump said Congress has promised that Section 230, which so unfairly benefits big tech at the expense of the American people, will be reviewed and either be terminated or substantially reformed, adding big tech must not get protections of Section 230. Meanwhile, Trump also said that both houses of Congress agreed to focus strongly on the slew of allegations of voting irregularities and fraud during the 2020 presidential election. The president noted that the Senate will now be starting an investigation into voter fraud. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell applauded Trump's decision to sign the bill in a statement. Like Pelosi, he did not mention a vote on increased checks, Section 230, or voter fraud. The president and his legal team are working against the clock to seek a determination from the courts over mounting evidence they say raises concerns over whether the 2020 election was stained by fraud and last-minute unconstitutional rule changes due to the measures introduced during the pandemic. If so, the president is seeking to invalidate ballots and allow state legislatures to decide on which electoral college votes should be counted on January 6th during the joint session of Congress. Trump has also demanded that Republican senators step up and fight for the presidency as lawmakers weigh in on whether to participate in a proposed effort to challenge electoral college votes on January 6th. Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer says he'll try to pass the Cash Act in the Senate Tuesday. The same day today, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell blocked the bill. McConnell said, "I object." He blocked a request for unanimous consent for the Cash Act from Schumer. Unanimous consent enables a bill to pass without a recorded vote, but the procedure opens legislation up for an objection by a single senator. Schumer had called on Republicans to support the act, saying $600 is not enough. Before objecting, McConnell had briefly touched on the push to increase stimulus checks, noting that President Trump, when signing the government funding package and the COVID-19 relief package on Sunday, asked Congress for more money going to the American people in the form of $2,000 checks per adult and $600 per child. Schumer said all 48 Senate Democrats support the bill. That means at least 12 GOP senators would need a vote if approved, if it is brought to a vote. At least 5 senators, Marco Rubio, David Perdue, Kelly Loeffler, and Lindsey Graham and Josh Hawley, have said they support the act. McConnell controls which bills are brought to the floor for a vote, apart from those that are put forth for unanimous consent. Busy days on Capitol Hill as yesterday the House voted to overturn President Trump's veto of the 2021 National Defense Authorization Act. Its fate now lies with the Senate.
On this vote, the yeas are 322, the nays are 87, two-thirds being in the affirmative. The bill is passed.
The override would need a two-thirds majority to succeed. The Senate appears poised to override the veto as well. Senators Bernie Sanders objected to the push to override as a way to try to get McConnell to bring the stimulus check proposal to a vote. Sanders asked McConnell to bring the Cash Act to a vote immediately after the veto override vote, but McConnell blocked the proposal. The defense bill vetoed by the president outlines the national security policy for the Department of Defense for 2021 and authorizes spending of $740 billion. About a week ago, Trump vetoed the NDAA because it failed to change or remove Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, which has been flagged by him and other Republicans as an enabler of censorship by tech companies such as Facebook or Twitter. Unfortunately, the act fails to include critical national security measures, includes provisions that fail to respect our veterans and our military's history, and contradicts efforts by my administration to put America first in our national security and foreign policy actions. It is a gift to China and Russia. The NDAA, Trump said, goes against his foreign policy mandate. Not only is this bad policy, but it is unconstitutional, he added in a statement at the time. Article 2 of the Constitution makes the President the Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and vests in him the executive power. Therefore, the decision regarding how many troops to deploy and where, including in Afghanistan, Germany, and South Korea, rests with him. President Trump called on GOP leaders in the Senate not to override his veto of the National Defense Authorization Act, or NDAA, after the House was able to. Trump wrote on Twitter on Tuesday, "Weak and tired Republican leadership will allow the bad defense bill to pass. Say goodbye to vital Section 230 termination, your national monuments, forts, and treasures, 5G, and our great soldiers being removed and brought home from foreign lands who do nothing for us." He added, "A disgraceful act of cowardice and total submission by weak people to big tech. Negotiate a better bill or get better leaders now. Senate should not approve NDAA until fixed." And a Republican lawmaker from Texas is suing the vice president. Texas Congressman Louie Gohmert sued Vice President Mike Pence on Monday. The lawsuit seeks to give Pence what's called exclusive authority to determine the state's electoral votes. So what does that mean? It's a bid to strike down the 1887 Electoral Count Act, which limits Pence's authority and sole discretion to determine the count. But striking this act down, Vice President Pence would get exclusive authority to decide which votes to count on January 6th, and this could overturn the election in favor of President Trump. The suit was jointly filed with Arizona's entire slate of Republican presidential electors, including Arizona Republican Party Chairwoman Kelly Ward. They stipulated that Pence should have the power to decide which group of the dual electoral votes among the swing states, if and which of them counts. A number of key states had their own GOP-selected electors cast votes for Trump and Pence to challenge the vote and preserve lawsuit options for the president. There are competing sets of electors from key states. When that happens, it's called dueling electors, which we've covered previously. On December 14th, a slate of Democratic electors chose Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden, while Republican electors also cast votes for President Trump, even though Biden was certified as the winner in the states. This sets up the dueling electors, or two sets of results. What happens is Congress gets two sets when they convene on January 6th to count the electoral votes. So Gohmert is asking that Pence be allowed to decide how to deal with this situation. If granted, Pence would be able to pick the Republican electors who cast their votes for Trump. This power is given to the vice president by the 12th Amendment. According to the Congressional Research Service, when dueling slates are received, members of Congress in the joint session consider the list when it's from a different state authority than the certified list and conduct a vote. Acceptance of either slate would then require a concurrent agreement in both the House and the Senate. If there isn't a conflict in terms of state authority, the one determined to be appointed pursuant to the state's election laws is counted. If there is no determination by a state authority of which state was lawfully appointed, the two chambers agree concurrently to accept the votes of one set or decide not to accept either set. If the two chambers don't agree, the electors certified by the governor shall be counted. The lawsuit claims that if Pence certifies the Electoral College results to secure a win for Joe Biden, it would be fraudulent. This is because of the numerous claims of fraud and inconsistencies in the November election. If the district court takes up this case, they must decide if Vice President Pence is only bound by the 12th Amendment, which spells out the procedure for election president and vice president, and can decide which electoral votes to count. Gohmert also said he would be joining a GOP-led effort to challenge the Electoral College vote count efforts, but so far it's not clear if any senators have joined, which is needed to carry out the challenge of the electoral votes. Some legal experts believe it is unlikely that the court will accept the case. There has been a lot of discussion in the last few days about the upcoming January 6th joint session of Congress to certify the state's electoral votes. With a little more than a week until then, there's a few factors to consider. Is it realistic to bet entirely on Pence? Maybe not. Other factors to consider are members of the House and Senate, as well as Trump supporters who are expected to be in D.C. that day for the rally. What do you think? Let me know below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in to Deep Dive. I'm Tiffany Meier, and see you soon.